So, Alessandro, I thought a great place to start this conversation is you all have a company that allows people to get a second visa and do it while still having exposure to Bitcoin. But we need to start with the idea of a Portuguese golden visa. I know very little about this, so maybe you could just tell us, like, what is this program and why does a country like Portugal offer it?
Absolutely. So thanks, Pomp, for this question. So, well, it was back in 2012 that the country, Portugal, decided to open up the doors, allowing investors to bring money in the country in various ways. And in exchange for that, to offer them the so-called golden visa, which is essentially a residency permit. And after a few years, 5 more specifically, the right to apply to citizenship. So this was a quite, I would say, old plan that made Portugal arguably the best and the more efficient citizenship by investment program in Europe. Now, it was 2023, October of last year, that there has been actually a major change in the Portuguese law. Until that moment, the more successful way for acquiring citizenship in Portugal was to invest in real estate-related private equity funds or real estate. In October, the legislation changes and actually makes investments in real estate or any adjacent matter, also as private equity funds, not anymore eligible for golden visas. That's when we had the idea of creating Unbound.
Now, in this visa process, it's literally I just put $500,000 in and I get the visa, or are there some requirements? Like how exactly, walk me through kind of the mechanics of how these visa programs work.
Definitely. So it's quite, in the end, it's pretty straightforward. So you invest €500,000 in a private equity fund, which invests 60% or more of the net asset value in local commercial companies. Upon this requirement, essentially, you just apply via, of course, our lawyer or whoever lawyer want to assist you. And in 12, 18 months, with the current, at least, in the present time, you can expect to receive your golden visa. Is there only any other requirement? The answer is yes. You need to spend a certain number of days every year in the country. How many? On average, 14 days every 2 years in the country. So essentially, it's a long vacation in the country, and this qualifies you for renewing actually golden visa. So if you like to surf, you're welcome. And for 2 weeks per 2 years, you can actually get and maintain your golden visa. After 5 years from the application, post-investment, you can apply for citizenship. Do you need to do anything else? Yes, there are 2 requirements. One is to actually demonstrate to have basic knowledge of Portuguese language, and specifically an A2 test, which is something in general not so complex. And besides that, you need to have, of course, a clean criminal record. So these are the only requirements. You don't need to move in Portugal. You don't move your fiscal residence in Portugal. This is a critical, actually, aspect that made this program so successful, also because in essence it's the only European citizenship by investment program that doesn't require you to really move to the country. Even Malta requires you to spend, even if a shorter time, in Malta and move your fiscal residency there. So that's why, in my view, over the years, this program became probably the most successful in Europe. And in my view, this somehow matches very well with the Unbound model. And that's why probably we went so viral and we got hundreds of applications in 48 hours.
Yeah. So what caught my attention about this was obviously the intersection with Bitcoin. Now, can people use Bitcoin to pay for the 500,000 euro, or does it have to be in euros?
It has to, unfortunately, it has to be in the old dear euro, so in fiat money. We tried our best to do something different, but the short answer is no. Unfortunately, it strictly required an investor to invest 500,000 euro from a foreign bank account into your own Portuguese bank account. This is the strict requirement.
Got it. Now, what you guys are doing that I think is unique and why there's been so much attention, you guys obviously have gone viral online, is you are allowing for when people put that $500,000 or 500,000 euro into this private equity fund, then what you all are doing is you're investing in local companies inside of Portugal, and those companies are holding Bitcoin, from my understanding. And so what you're essentially offering to folks is you can have 500,000 euro exposure to Bitcoin indirectly, and also help to secure a Portuguese golden visa. Is that kind of how the system works?
100%. You did your homework very well. and yes, Anthony, this is absolutely correct. So we came up with this model, being inspired by the idea of creating the most capital efficient solution and at the same time bringing in a mutually beneficial way value to the country. This is a very important topic that I would like to expand with two notes. Note number one is, when it comes to European citizenships, even by investment, they are never something, they are serious commitments. And Portugal is no exception. So we don't sell something with the spirit of, oh, this is going to be necessarily easy and so far and so on. No. This is a serious commitment. And we put together the best team. And actually, my co-founder already actually promoted and managed previously a Golden Visa fund in real estate. Our team cumulatively worked on 110 Golden Visa procedures, and I come from Web3, having spent more than seven years in crypto. So this is never an easy journey. I would like to remark it. And secondly, there is a real citizenship that gives you the status also of European citizen at the end of the program. And that's something pretty relevant in terms of edging. Why? Because this is what I always say to everyone. We don't know how the world will look like in 5 or 10 years. And this very same reason that makes Europe highly inefficient, arguably for business, which is fragmentation, is possibly the same reason why acquiring a European citizenship can be so profoundly valuable in terms of edging the position of anyone in 5, 10, 20 years. For example, we don't know if your kids want to study in Berlin or in Paris, or rather to open a company in Eastern Europe, because maybe in 20 years from now, Eastern Europe will be the right place where to launch the most interesting companies for the best entrepreneurs out there. So with this program, you can get in this direction and get there. Now, this is somehow the background of what we can put together. The very important disclaimer is we are using a very old and well-validated model. What we invented really was essentially changing the scope of activity of the SPV on the territory of Portugal. And that was, in my view, a brilliant move. And we got very, overwhelmed actually by the reaction of the market, which we didn't expect, to be honest. and that's how I believe this is going to be great also for Portugal. Why? The companies pay taxes in Portugal, and indirectly we will promote Web3 adoption and Bitcoin adoption at institutional level also in the country. So in our view, and according to many, this is a very, in my view, valuable maneuver that will bring back eventually exposure to Portugal, which has been, and in our view, will be a primary hub for Web3 in Europe. And in the end, as you know, there are many co-founders, colleagues of you, of us, already in Lisbon or Porto, right? Or in general in the country, or Caparica. So I think there are many actually different points that altogether probably well aligned around this initiative. Yeah.
So if I was to do this, I want exposure to Bitcoin. But there are people who say, hey, maybe I don't want exposure to Bitcoin. Maybe I want exposure to Ether or Solana or named, whatever other asset. What is your plan? Are you going to stay just with Bitcoin? Are you going to go into other things? And are there risks associated with kind of picking some of these other assets?
So to recap, actually for fund number one, the exposure is going to be exclusively in Bitcoin. But of course, we are going to expand the portfolio of products of Unbound. And as you know, right now we are working mainly with crypto native teams and partners. And during these discussions, it became evident that there is an opportunity of cooperating eventually for new products, which may get exposure in various ways on different projects, potentially also Ethereum network, Solana, the Solana network, and other primary blockchain networks. For now, Unbound Fund 1, the current one, investment strategy focuses only and exclusively in investing in companies whose investment strategy is acquiring only exposure to Bitcoin via ETFs.
Are there other countries that you can go and do this? I know that there are some other countries that have kind of golden visas or various types of programs. Is that also something that your company's looking at from a roadmap standpoint?
Today's episode is brought to you by Domain Money. I get asked all the time, Pomp, where should I go for financial advice? Now, as you all know, I can't personally give financial advice, but I now know people who can. Domain Money makes financial planning straightforward and accessible. They tailor plans to your personal priorities and goals, whether you want to buy a big house, whether you want to fund college, or you want to take that dream vacation. Now, I'm not a Domain Money client, and they are paying me for this ad, as you know. And I've seen firsthand, though, the value of their service through a free plan they did for one of my brothers. Him and I got on with one of their financial advisors, and they walked us through the whole process. It was awesome. Domain Money offers unbiased, flat fee advice with no minimums and zero misaligned incentives. They're not managing your assets or selling you products. It's pure, practical, and tactical financial guidance. Need more advice? They also pay by the hour options for plan updates or coaching sessions. Don't be like most people who have never had a real conversation about their financial plan. Trust Domain Money to help you build a clear roadmap for your future. It's hands down the smartest move you can make for your money. Book a free strategy session with Domain Money at domainmoney.com/pomp. Again, domainmoney.com/pomp. And yes, I might have an interest in promoting Domain. So just like any major financial decision, it's important you understand what the service is and if it's right for you. So make sure to see the important disclaimer at dmnny.co/x. How about that? Go check it out today. Go to domainmoney.com/pomp.
Yes. Yes. At the same time, the answer is yes. Also, as you maybe can tell by the accent, I'm Italian, and I, before essentially becoming an entrepreneur, I actually qualified as a lawyer. I did a bit of a academic career in Italy in the legal sector, and then I started doing various startups. So on the Italian side, we are confident we can actually implement this model potentially in a linear way compared to Portugal, and we may implement this model in a very attractive country that I'm sure would generate a second actually virality. But I don't want to mention it right now because it came up after an iteration with a specific person, which is very well known in the space of immigration actually. So let's put in this term, Anthony. Yes, maybe if someone wants to follow us, I would really love to see anyone subscribing also my newsletter and keeping in touch. And we will be in touch and updating everyone as we progress. One major clarification on this point. So the answer is yes, we're going to expand the portfolio, of course, but at the same time, the philosophy behind this initiative is to really care a lot of the quality of product number one. And partially, that's also why we're going to keep this initiative as a quote-unquote family business. I've been doing startups since a while. I have very good contacts with very good investors, and I do respect them a lot. But at the same time, I don't know, maybe because we went so viral, and maybe because these are business targeting Indian families. So we are serving literally the future of families. And we believe with Ziu, my co-founder and fiancé, that having this as a family-run business somehow, adds specific value. So this translates in our approach of treating every potentially, investor, LPs, and customer as a new member in our global family. This is what we like to say. We live in Lisbon. We have also business in Portugal. In Porto. So we do often back and forth with Porto. Actually, also our dog name is Porto, just to give you an idea, because we met in Porto with you. So this is the kind of level of connection with the country. And so what I'm trying to say is sometimes it's very good to scale up fast, but at the same time, occasionally it's even more important to take the necessary time. Even if we went hyper viral and we got more than $250 million of manifestation of interest in 48 hours, still, I think it's very important to focus on one single product and do really your best. I could expand on this a bit, but I will keep it short. There are various reasons, Anthony, why Portugal technically and strategically makes a lot of sense as a citizenship investment program. So I would first want to make sure that we are delivering the best value in a very solid way in Portugal, and then we want to expand, but only at the condition that we really can ensure the best qualitative service in every other country, which is inevitably generated when you have a direct touch with the territory. You know your partners very well. You have been doing this already a couple of times. Yeah, already. This is not a regulated environment. It's a very complex industry, a very old one. So for innovating it, you inevitably you need to know your own things. And for now, we have the best experience merging crypto and immigration, related industry knowledge in Portugal. So yes, expansion, but at the same time, focus on delivering a lot of one-on-one quality in Portugal.
So I have some questions around maybe the nuance or the mechanism, right?
Sure.
So I put 500,000 euros into this private equity fund. Do I get the profits as profits are generated from the fund, or what happens there?
100%, sure. These are all the effects, Anthony, are private equity related investments. So it works like that. So you, first of all, we agree to do this together. There are two options, but I'm not going to go in details. In about 4 weeks from when we decide to move together, you are going to be investment ready. You send 500,000 euro on your new local bank account that we will help you opening. You will invest the 500K in euro in the fund bank account, which will invest in the SPV or in the SPVs. Now, the fund duration is 8 years as a worst case scenario. The fund is a closed-ended fund. So you technically can't at the third year say, hey, I want to get back my money. But a secondary market transaction is allowed. So in case you change idea and you don't want to anymore the residency or citizenship, you can tell us and we will do our best to find eventually an acquirer, and this may happen. So it is true, it's a closed-ended fund, but there could be potentially ways for allowing someone to change idea and eventually get back their liquidity earlier. So over 8 years, worst case scenario, is the time needed for everyone in the fund to arrive to the citizenship, essentially finish line. It may happen that on year 6 or 7, this already happens. In that case, the assembly of the share units holders can deliberate an earlier liquidation of the fund. So when the fund liquidates year 6, 7, or 8, essentially all the assets of the SPV are liquidated. The money is returned to the fund at the fund level, and the fund distributes actually the capital back plus the profit. The SPV will pay some taxes in Portugal. Instead, the fund level doesn't pay taxes. And if you're resident in Portugal, by the time the taxation on the personal income level will be 10%. If you're resident abroad, you will need to double check with your tax advisor in your country of fiscal residence. So the answer is absolutely yes. You're going to get back, finger crossed, the capital and the profits, assuming, as we all believe, that Bitcoin will perform very well in the next 5, 6, and more years. And we take only 10%. So just to clarify, the typical VC model is 220, as you know very well, better than me. So in this case, we brought down the management fee to 1.5% per annum and 10% performance fee. We believe that this better align with this use case. And in my view, it's quite fair request for put together and assist you all the way along actually for a very long time period. So yes, it's absolutely an investment for profit. And we recently actually improved also the model of the fund. And just for your own interest, there may be also on an annual basis earlier distribution of performances to the share units holders and to us, of course, in the same proportion, 90-10. In case the SPV business, which is indirectly connected to the Bitcoin market, performs very well. So in short terms, yes, you send 500K in the fund, of course, which technically is closed, but there could be early distribution in case Bitcoin, as we all expect on year 2, 3, 4, 5, will hyperperform.
Now, if I go and I do this as an individual, I'm married, I have children. Do they also get citizenship, or what is kind of the implications for families?
100%. This is actually the best part. So this is a very family-oriented solution. So you can bring your spouse, your kids, your parents, and also your spouse parents. There are some requirements. I will be very short on this, but in general, so all the kids you may have, which are actually financially dependent from you, they can co-apply with you. In general, if they are up to 12 years old, our immigration lawyer suggests to avoid, essentially they will be reunited after you gain the citizenship. This process could be easier and avoid essentially the burden of the language test also on them. But in any case, don't worry, even if they're 18 years old, they can somehow become citizen, either co-applying in the program or by reunification once you're a citizen. For the parents, the same story applies. If your parent is a bit elder, so above 65 years old, this is completely automated. If instead your parents are below 65 years old, there is an additional actually requirement, which is you need to prove, but our immigration lawyer will assist you in everything. Essentially, you need to prove that your dad or your mom are currently non-financially independent. So the same is valid for your spouse parents, and this is quite relevant. Just today, I was interviewing our immigration lawyer, Felipe, from, in our view, the best immigration lawyer in Portugal. They've been doing this for 20 years. They managed 4,000 plus procedures. Only right now they have 700 procedures, and it's a small firm. Also in that case, caring a lot of the one-on-one relationship with the clients. Essentially was telling us the story of there's been a guy with 8 kids, and so he essentially invested 500K and he brought 8 kids at once. And I think there could be a joke, this is one of those very rare cases where having many kids is, I would say, financially more convenient, right, than having less. So yeah, you may have more kids and take advantage of these investment and citizenship by investment program opportunity in this way. So the answer is absolutely yes. To be complete on this point, we always tell the pros and the cons transparently. The cons is in this case that also everyone who applies, Anthony, needs to come in the country and spend 14 days in the country every 2 years. So long story short, whoever applies will need to join in this family vacation in Portugal every 2 years.
What are the other risks associated with this? Obviously, if you invest in a fund and the kind of exposure, indirect exposure to Bitcoin doesn't work out, Bitcoin goes down, you could lose money. But are there other risks associated with participating in these programs?
Being an investment in a private equity fund, the risk associated with the investment necessarily is correlated to the investment strategy. So in this case, the strategy is pretty straightforward. So investing in Web3 companies, which their primary objective is investing, and specifically in Bitcoin. So I would say that the predominant risk in this whole operation is exclusively correlated to the Web3 market, specifically in the performances of Bitcoin, which in the end, we know this all very well, right? In the end, represents until now, and in my view also in the future, somehow the performance of the entire industry. So there are no particular other risks, which of course are not dependent on black swan events or whatever major, very unexpected events. So I would say no, at least they don't come into my mind. Let's keep in mind, by the way, that in case of a very remote black swan event on Bitcoin, which we all clearly don't expect, the fund manager will summon an assembly, and the share units or online, every participant will be able to vote on a new asset reallocation. So this is, of course, the something we don't expect, but just for clarity, it's feasible in case of a black swan event. Yeah.
That makes sense. How can people find you on the internet if they want to reach out and ask questions? And then what is the website if they want to go ahead and apply to work with you guys?
Absolutely. So the website of Unbound is unboundfund.com. Unboundfund.com. My personal website is Ale Palombo, ALEPALOMBO.com, and my newsletter is Ale Newsletter, which is ALE newsletter.com. So it's very straightforward. I'm going to actually produce a lot of content because I think this vertical requires, there is a lot to say. And I do think that right now citizenships are at all the effects probably a new asset class and a very useful tool for hedging, the future of yourself and your family in the coming years. Personally, I'm super interested in everything connected to originally to the DAO sector and right now to the network state sector. And I'm working on a couple of initiatives, and I will be talking, writing, intervening a lot on these matters. So if anyone is interested also in this vertical, I would love to essentially engage. And I'm very thankful for this interview. It was actually, until 2 weeks ago, I didn't expect to be interviewed by you, to be quite honest. And it's great. So sometimes, you wait for 10 years and you work for something and then suddenly this materializes. So this is amazing. Yeah,
you did a fantastic job, and people will reach out if they're interested. But thank you so much for explaining it to me. It's a pretty cool program, very clever, kind of how you guys have figured out how to do this. And I wish you guys the best of luck.
Thank you so much, Anthony. Thank you.